John Smith's framework of reflection on action is another model that we can look at about operationalizing reflective practice. And in this particular model, there are three phases. Two of which are very common to us, the descriptive phase and the reflective phase. In this particular model, there's a third phase, the emancipator phase. This is very much about the teacher developing more clarity about their own assumptions and values in teaching and starting to change and develop these. The description phase is very much about examining and developing a genuine understanding, a real honest understanding of the teaching that they're engaged with. It, interestingly, leads the teacher to a particular process in terms of the reflective cycle. What this model suggests is that the description is done through the teacher's narrative of the events in the classroom. Then the idea of a narrative is something which we'll look at in future lectures. The idea of a narrative therefore leads the teacher to producing things like reflective journals. The reflection phase is, again, the analysis of what's taking place. Analysis not only of events, but also the situations in which they occur, the contexts in which they occur, and trying to understand the intentions behind them. And this model does not remove the teacher from this. There is a sense that part of the process is the teacher developing a much stronger self-awareness of themselves as practitioners. Now, the interesting part of this model is the emancipator phase. This is where the teacher is very much critiquing their own practice and looking at inconsistencies in terms of what they're doing in relation to what they know they should be doing, ought to be doing. And this is not to say that, therefore, the teacher is behaving incorrectly. It is very much about liberation. It's about the teacher beginning to realize that things can change, that things are not static, and that the self-critique is an opportunity for growth and development. Smith operationalizes these phases through a number of cues, and we'll look at the cues now. For example, the description phase could be cued through a question like, well, what did I do? That's a very simple question. Of course, you could come up with any number of questions as part of the description. Another question could be, well, what does this actually mean in terms of me as a teacher, or what I'm trying to do within the school? Smith also proposes the questions for the other components of the phases, and they're only suggestions. We can all come up with our own questions in relation to these phases. So, for example, in terms of developing a self-awareness, that needs some sort of confrontation, personal confrontation by the practitioner. And a cue could be, how did I come to be like this in the classroom? How did I come to feel these things? So you can see that the teacher is not extracted from this process at all, and very much is within the action. And the cues help the teacher to focus on this aspect of their practice. So in terms of the teacher starting to synthesize and learn from what is taking place, there is a sort of reconstruction process. And there are particular cues which the reflective practitioner can use. For example, what do my practices say about my assumptions and my beliefs about teaching? So again, this is very much internalizing the process of reflection and having the teacher think more deeply about their own role as a practitioner. It's important to think as a reflective practitioner that these cues are cues and they're not fixed questions. as a reflective practitioner, you can add more cues and develop your own set of guidelines to help you reflect using this model.